I want to talk to y'all about something. And my question is, well, it ain't even a question. Let's just talk about this. How did we get here? And what I mean is, how did we get to the point of where civilization is, where society is, and all across the world? When we see in a time where we see earthquakes popping up every few days, not just here in America, but around the world. We seeing tornadoes, hurricanes, where it is flooding in the Midwest, tsunamis in Indonesia. And I'm not just talking America, but especially here in America. We seeing men turn themselves into women and women turn themselves into men. Sexualization of kids at a young age, as young as 11 years old. And we have to ask ourselves, how did we get here? See, these things that they like to call natural disasters, that's what your people in the white coat tell you that's what it is. That's what they tell you what it is. They tell you that it's earthquakes and tornadoes, that they are natural disasters. But when you disconnect people from God and you tell them that they live on a ball in the middle of a universe, it makes people denounce God. When if people knew who God was and they knew the Bible, they would be able to tell what days that we are moving in and what is really, really going on. And I'm going to need y'all to walk with me, because they hid God from us. The Bible talked about there'd be signs in the sun, the moon, the stars. There'd be rumors of war, earthquakes, tornadoes. But when you had God hidden from you, you don't know what's going on. So one must ask me, how did they hide God? It was two major events that happened. And I'm going to need y'all to walk with me because I'm freestyling this shit. In the 1500s, we had the creation of the earth going from flat and stationary, like it said in Genesis, how God explained it, to a ball. And we had the creation of white Jesus. I don't know which one y'all want to talk about first. And there's going to be a lot of different angles that's going to play into this, that's going to make it all make sense and center it all up. But let's talk about Earth. When we get into the Egyptians, the Aztecs, the Hebrews, the Mayans, and all of these cultures and civilizations have done things in this world that European cultures haven't been able to emulate to this day. But they depicted the world as being flat. And it stayed flat throughout all of the brown civilizations throughout time. It didn't come to change until you had European Western rule come in, and that's in the 1500s, and that's when everything went from being flat and stationary, like the Bible described in Genesis, to being a ball. And I think it's kind of ironic because we see how European culture kind of erases brown and black culture throughout time. But in the 1500s with Copernicus, if you don't know who Copernicus is, he was, I think, a bishop or something in the Roman Catholic Church. He came up with the ideal of the ball through Copernicus, which, I mean, you could do the research on it, but he like married his niece and all kind of other shit, like wicked shit. Well, wicked ain't nothing new when it comes to certain people in this world. But that's where you get your ball. So you take it from, they took it from being from where how God described it as being flat, stationary, the earth and the sun and the moon revolved inside of the firmament. It was waters above as below, basically like a dome. And then on the edited version, I'm gonna put imagery on here so you can see what I'm talking about. And it said it was waters above as below. It was we encased inside of a dome. The sun and the moon revolved inside of the firmament. Outside of the firmament, outside the dome was waters, and God sat on top of the earth and the waters on a throne. It lets civilization know that God is relatively close. But when you take in the 1500s with European rule and Copernicus in the Roman Catholic Church, and they tell you that the earth is a ball, and it revolves, a ball that spins at so many thousand miles per hour as it revolves around the sun. It's like 17,000 miles per hour. And the sun darts through the universe and the galaxy at 1.3 trillion miles per hour. That makes you feel that God ain't really that close. So how did we get here? So when you make people feel that they live on a rock, a spinning rock that's spinning around the sun, darting through a universe, and it's all of these other galaxies and universes and it's other life forms in different galaxies, like they really know, but this is what they feed into people. It makes people think that if God really exists, what makes us special if it's this big universe and all of these galaxies and all of these suns, what makes him be focused just on us? And then we have to ask ourselves, how did we get here? How did we get here? And then at the same time, they tell you that, as they tell you that, they give you the numbers. See, people don't want to listen to me because I didn't go to no university and I don't have a white coat and I'm not a scientist. But common sense is common sense. Common sense is common sense. But when people tell you that there's galaxies and there's other galaxies and suns and the pyramids in Egypt and some of the pyramids in South America match the Orion constellation, and they've been doing it for 4,000 years or so, but they stay aligned with the constellation that's in a whole nother galaxy, has its own sun, but as we sit on our ball and we float around our sun, and our sun is going at 1.3 trillion miles per hour in its own direction, how does these pyramids still match up with the constellation in another galaxy if we darting through space? Is the other galaxies, the other suns, the Orion constellation, is it moving in the same direction as we have been for 400 years? We have to think about this. And does that even make sense? It makes sense if you live on a stationary plane, like the Bible described, and we lived in a firmament, and it was waters above as below, and the sun and the stars rotated inside of the firmament. It makes more sense. But when you hiding God from a people and you have plans on dominating, controlling the world, you have to change the way people look at the world. So how did we get to a point where men are turning themselves into women, women are turning themselves into men, and kids are being sexualized at 11 years old, 12 years old? They got drag queens going in schools and teaching LGBT, and all of these crimes and all of this wicked shit is going on in the world. We got to ask ourselves, how did we get here? How did we get here? Who are we following? And we're going to touch, and it's a lot of areas. Y'all going to have to bear with me because it's going to be a lot of areas that's going to be introduced into this broadcast that's going to make sense. And I'm going to put the pictures up on the edited final version. So we talked about how they hid God. So now let's talk about white Jesus, which was created in the 1500s, the same year as the earth went from being flat plane is described like it is in the Bible and by many other different civilizations throughout time, went from a ball, from flat to earth, to a ball, they made and created white Jesus. So Pope Alexander VI, I believe it was, he hit up Michelangelo and he came up with this. And Pope Alexander was in the Roman Catholic Church, which the Roman Catholic Church also created ball earth. So he hit up Michelangelo and said, paint Jesus' image in my son, Kaiser Bajar. I think I'm saying his name right. Which Kaiser Bajar was Pope Alexander VI's son. That was like his favorite kid. And he was a warmonger, a homosexual, and all of the above. But Pope Alexander thought it was a good idea to paint his son image as Christ. So that's where you get white Jesus. So for the people, then we have to think about the chain of events that happened and starting around like the 1450s, the 1500s with the Crusades, the Christian Crusades, all of this, the domination of European culture throughout the world, like mass murder, genocides all throughout the world. So when you go into these lands with these spiritual people of color, you bring them your God, not the God. You denounce the God that they have, because a lot of different cultures throughout time believed in the same God. They just had certain names, and it was they did it. They worshiped a little bit different, but they all kind of had the same God. It was just different names through different languages or whatever. But the Europeans created their imagery of God, which was white Jesus. And as they was going over and taking over, they moving throughout the world into Africa, in Europe, and into Asias, and coming finding out that the Americas existed. They came with their white Jesus, and they denounced the whatever God that those people was worshiping, and introduced them to white Jesus. So we all know that the Europeans came with mass murder, genocides, and wherever they went at. So when they came to take over your land, they introduced you to a white Jesus, which painted in the people's head that God reflected their image. God reflected their image. And this is how we got here. But y'all gotta walk with me. So when you're being enslaved, you're being murdered and massacred, you have more of a tendency to forgive the people that look like God, the imagery of God that they fed you, the imagery. So 1500s, we had bald earth and white Jesus. When the Bible basically described Jesus as a man of color. He had eyes like fire, hair like white hair like wool, white as snow, skin like bronze, brass, as if it was burnt in a furnace. We know what brass looks like. And then, so just imagine if you put a little heat to it and it darkens up, you get a nice chocolate color, a medium tone brown color, with red eyes and white woolly hair. When's the last time you seen a sheep go baa, baa? And where the hell did they get the picture of Brad Pitt from? With the white skin. Well, let's just say red skin, because we're going to get into that later. Where did you get that? And the Bible stated that the heathen will paint my image in their likeness. But these is the Bible verses that are being skipped when you go to church. When you go to church, these are the Bible verses that's being skipped. And a lot of names and a lot of people and a lot of events is being skipped. But the Bible said that the heathens will paint my image in a likeness. When the Bible stated that there's no graven images and no false idols, but they did it anyway. They did it anyway. But we don't understand how we got here. And we don't understand what we're seeing when we seeing these disasters, these movements. They're movements of God. When you see tornadoes and earthquakes, because God was known to judge whole lands and nations, just in the nations of people. Look at Egypt. There's a lot of places around this world that was flourishing at one time, and now they are destroyed. But when you hiding God from people and you denouncing the truth of the Bible and you making people to think that the Bible don't mean what it says, and this is how we get here. This is how we get here. This is how we get here. But he was known to judge whole nations and lands, especially in America. We seeing wildfires and earthquakes back to back and hurricanes and tornadoes and your average American. Let's try down the history of America. The introduction, you murder the Indians, well, I ain't gonna say the native aborigines of this country, of this land. You enslave a black population. You enslave them for 250 years, another 150 years, and then segregation and Jim Crow and all of this other shit. And then you think that you're not gonna have to pay for what you have done to the people of the world and of this nation. And on top, you have deforested half of the South America and half of the forest of the world. You have killed the the Pacific Ocean. You have created pollution and destruction wherever you go. And this ain't hate speech, this is real speech. But I'm breaking down to how we got here. Bald earth and white Jesus. Bald earth and white Jesus. But people don't understand what is going on because most of us been miseducated through their school systems and through their churches. And there's a lot of things that's in the Bible that the churches ain't even gonna touch on. Now, as we did talked about bald earth and white Jesus, now let's talk about who Esau is. Because you never hear about Esau in your church. Esau was the brother of Jacob. Esau was the twin of Jacob, which he was born, like it said in the Bible, I'm paraphrasing, but you can fact check it. I might put up the Bible verse in the edited version, but it said the first came out red and hairy, like it was wearing a garment. And the second one, which one was Esau, was the first that came out. Jacob came out second, and he was holding Esau's heel. And it also stated in the Bible that Esau would be the death of the world, and Jacob would be everything that followeth. So the Bible described Esau, but it didn't describe Jacob. Esau was red and hairy. White people ain't white, they're red. White was coined in 1682. They're not white, they're red. Take your piece of paper, white paper, and hold it up next to a white person, and it's not white, they're red. So Esau was described as red and hairy. And we all know that they can tell you a lie of the people of the Bible is olive color. I mean, olives is two different colors. It's green or it's black or brownish. They ain't green. They ain't green. But Moses, Paul, and Joseph, I believe, was mistaken as Egyptians. Was it Paul went to the Greek captain or chief or something and asked could he speak to him, and then the Greek chief said, are you that Egyptian that was been causing all that confusion in the land? And we know that the Egyptians were black. We don't give a damn what they say in those movies. But if we know that the Romans and the Greeks at that time was white people. So if Paul was white, the Greek captain would not be surprised that Paul could speak to him, but he would be surprised if Paul wasn't white. And he was a man of color and he knew their language. Moses, when Moses saved, I forgot whose daughters it was, at the well, he killed those two dudes. And the daughters went back to their father and said, who saved y'all? He said it was an Egyptian man. And I'm just throwing this out there. You can Google this and check it, and it's going to come back. The Bible verses will pop right up, and that's what it will say. Like I said, I'm paraphrasing, but the people of the Bible was black. They was black and brown. Well, we not black, we brown, but darker shade of brown people. And so Esau was described because he was nothing like them. And Noah was described also, but Noah had leprosy, which was albinoism. But Esau was described because he didn't favor none of the people in the Bible. It did, and what did it say? It was said that Esau and Jacob's mother, God told him there would be two nations at war in your stomach. So Esau was the father of the Edomites. They don't tell you this in church. The Edomites became the Romans, which became the Greeks, in which when Rome fell and shit, they dispersed into Europe and started calling themselves British and Greek, British and Spaniards and from Spain and all the white countries of Europe, the United Kingdom, all of that. Those are the descendants of the Edomites. And they really originated from Mount Seir or Mount Petra. And I'm gonna show this. And if you look at the pictures of Mount Petra and the art of how they the structure of the rocks, it will remind you of your Capitol buildings in Europe, in London. It will remind you of the Capitol buildings here in America, the architecture of it. It will remind you. But these are the lineage of Esau. Esau's gift was the sword. And what I'm doing is I'm marching down how we got here. Esau's gift was the sword. And in the Bible, like when they tell you about this Revelations and God is gonna come and rapture up all the Christians and all of this fairy tale shit, it's not that easy. Revelations is a war story. It's God, Jesus coming back for the second coming to pay back and wage war on the nation of people that has done wrong to the earth, the people of the earth, and the animals of the earth. And then we have to look at track records. What is their history in this world? What is their history in this world? Because God said he's coming back to wage war on the Edomites. He said he's going to come back yielding a sword of vengeance for the iniquities that have been done to the people of the earth, especially the children of Israel. White Jesus, bar earth. So while they feeding this throughout the last 500 years, they gave you bar earth because they hadn't God from you. Because the end story of the Bible don't end that well for them. And I'm just being honest. This ain't hate speech, this is real speech. This is real speech. So when you are not a spiritual person, you know you have your destiny per se, the Bible, but you don't want the world to know who you really are, your mission. You have to change the way the people look at the world. Look at God, and if you can get them to denounce God, that's great. If you could change them make them think that God's image is your image and help them bow down to you. That's great. So now we have to look at present day. We see in all of these things that the Bible spoke of, these elements of earthquakes and tornadoes and hurricanes. And this is how God judges. And America is due for judgment. America doesn't even want to right its original sin. Its first and original sin, which was slavery. So how do you think that you're going to march into the future and not have that karma? But when we have all of this degenerate shit like Sodom and Gomorrah, the Roman Empire, like I said, Egypt was destroyed, Rome was destroyed, and we know how they was getting down in Rome. Same-sex marriages and homosexuality and pedophilia and big orgies. They doing the same shit now as they was doing then. But they amplifying it. See, when Rome fell, people realized that it was a judgment of God and it was not something to do. So when Rome fell, they dispersed out into the world, and then they couldn't take their deviant ways with them, so they had to mask it. But now we're seeing these ways of the Romans come back out. LGBT, pedophilia, sexualizing of kids. And we don't understand how we got here. We don't understand it. Well, I understand it, but most people don't understand it. And that's the reason why I'm painting this picture for you. That's the reason why I'm painting this picture for you. Because people don't understand. So we see Trump talking about this Space Force. Because like I said, Revelations is about the judgment of the Edomites. The people that have done the earth wrong. The seven-head beast, all of that is basically the phases of the Roman Catholic Church, the papal, and European rule. Remember in Revelation talk about the seven-head beast and a little head grew out of one of the heads and had a horn. That's your America. When they thought the beast was dead. But in a time where we're seeing these things ramp up, all of these judgments from God across the world, and then we have to think about the track record of America and how they try to hide God. So Baal Earth and White Jesus. So what they do is they use their manipulation tools, Hollywood. They give you movies like Independence Day, Star Wars, Star Trek, Aliens, Predator, to make you think, to go along with the Baal Earth. So they make you, it sits in stone that we live on a ball in the middle of a galaxy and other galaxies, and we darting through the universe because you hadn't God. And then at the same time, you perpetrate this lie in people's head, you propagandize them with it, and you tell them, you make them believe that aliens exist. And I'm going to just go ahead and say aliens is not real. They're real, but they're not what they're claiming they are. They're fallen angels. The angels of God. They're angels of God. If you believe in the Baal, you're going to believe in aliens. If you believe what the Bible says, you're going to believe that they're fallen angels. Because even the Bible spoke of rolling chariots and flying wheels and basically UFOs. So if God was able to make the earth and we're able to do what we do on the earth, what you think God's technology looks like? What you think God is able to accomplish? If man can do it, if whatever you could do, I could do better. I could do much better than you. But you propagandize these movies They'll make make people believe in aliens, and then you have like little articles and alien invasion, and you have the Independence Day with the mothership and all of this. And God said that he was going to come back in the last days with his own kingdom. So what is that kingdom going to look like? Well, we got people in Israel right now building the third temple. They said it's for God, but God destroyed 2 temples for a reason, and he said he's coming back with his own. So who are you making that temple for in Israel when he said he's going to bring his own? You making that for the Antichrist, just like the Bible said. But if he's coming with his own, and keep us in mind the movies, if he's coming with his own kingdom, wouldn't that look like a mothership? Wouldn't that look like a mothership? Now think about these movies that they put in your face. They have an Independence Day, the mothership sitting over top of the White House, shooting the beam down and destruction, and then aliens and Predator and all of this shit. They telling you this is what they feeding in your mind, in your head. So, and then Trump is coming up with a Space Force. With a Space Force. With a Space Force. So, who are they planning on fighting up there? And yeah, and the Roman Catholic Church do have a telescope they call Lucifer, where they watch the stars. Who are y'all watching up there? What are y'all waiting for? What are y'all looking for? So what they did, they propagandized people through Hollywood and through our time that believe that we live on a ball that's going through a universe and aliens exist. So when shit hit the fan in Revelations, we in the last days and God comes back for judgment of the earth, they gonna have people thinking that they fighting aliens when they really gonna be fighting God. Walk with me. Because Revelations, like I said, white people can't walk. They can't walk into the future and think everything's gonna be fine after they done all of this mass murdering of the people of the earth, and the elements of the earth, and the forests of the earth, and the animals of the earth. There's karma in certain shit. There's karma. So they propagandize everybody with this aliens and ball earth, because they gonna have everybody fighting God for them. And anybody that does it, you're a fool. You damn right a fool. But this is what happens this is what people don't understand when you hide God from people. When you hide God from people. They don't understand what's going on in the world. They don't understand much of any, like they don't see, they think that they can be whatever they want to be, do whatever they want to do. And it's crazy that all the other animals and creatures that crawl and fly in the earth know their position in this world besides humans. And humans knew their position at one time when black and brown people was ruling the earth. But now a different rule has came in, which is the descendants of Esau. Now people don't know. Now people don't know. But they coach in the world to believe what they believe and what they want them to believe, so everybody will do their bidding. It sounds like America, how they use black people and people of color to fight their wars, be on the front line. They're going to have a lot of y'all on the front line when God come back. When God come back. And people don't understand this, because when you take the lands of the earth and you divide them up and call them what you want to call them, and you get them away from the names and the borders that is original names and borders, and you name people what you want to name them, Indians and Brazilian and Guatemalan and African, and people don't realize that the same people of the Bible are still here. They still here. God said it's not an end to a people until he calls an end to them. So A lot of the people of the Bible are still here, but if you don't look at an old map of Africa and you don't see the land of Canaan, Cush, Kemet, and all of this, you don't know. You think that a lot of them people of the Bible is not here, but they sitting right in front of your face. And this is how we got here. And this is how they hid God. This is how they hid God. And they hid a lot of people right in people's faces, and people, you got people around the world are being treated like dogs and at the bottom caste of most societies, and as they lifted themselves up with their white Jesus and their colonialism and got people following along with this and don't even know that you might be looking down, mistreating God's people. Because God's people, far as he could, like as the Bible says, that they won't be in remembrance. They'll be cut off from their heritage. They'll be scattered around the earth by ships going into slavery for 400 years. But then we got some people in Israel that's saying that they God's people, but they not doing bad. They don't fit none of the curses of Deuteronomy 28, 25 through 64. They don't fit none of them curses. They don't fit none of those curses. But then you got people that fit the curses, and the world is treating them like dogs because they didn't hear God from y'all. For their benefit. For their benefit. But we don't understand how we got here. But it's because of bald earth and white Jesus. And when people try to talk to people and tell people and just common sense, they don't want to listen because it didn't come. The information didn't come from their universities. You don't have their degrees. But God, as far as I'm concerned, He never needed white approval to make profits or send His messengers. He don't need to go through them to bring two people together for marriage. What they did was reconstruct the laws of God and made themselves the doorway for anything that the world wants to do. They have a God complex. You can't create man, so you create AI, artificial intelligence. You can't create the world, so you destroy it. But people don't understand how we got here. And people are so confused because, like I said, they rename land and people. We got people that's running around ignorantly calling themselves. I'm like, what are you? Be black just like me. I'm Brazilian. Or I'm Dominican. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. That's your nationality. That's your culture. But what are you? I'm Guatemalan. I'm like, that's not a race of people. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But this is how we got here. And a lot of those people are the same people. Even they so clever, they got most people in America thinking that all the Indians look like the Redskins and the Chiefs mascot. At 100 million people, which they said that they murdered and conquered, all 100 million people look like one. Imagery of a Redskin mascot, the Chiefs mascot, no. But then people don't take into consideration that the Florida Seminoles, the Black Indians, the black people of Louisiana that still practice Indian culture, the Olmec heads of Mexico, which was black people, and they think that we all came here on a boat. They tell people that God's name is God when it's really Yahweh. Hebrew writing all around America, from North America to South America, all the way up to Canada to South America. Indians used to say, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, 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 yeah. But God's real name is Yahweh. But we don't understand how we got here. And half of us in America, we sit around celebrating Thanksgiving. Celebrate Thanksgiving, the murder of black Indians. Because let's tell the truth. It don't know that you was aiding and abetting the genocide. You supporting, you recognizing the death of one of God's people. White Jesus and Ball Earth. White Jesus and Ball Earth. So we don't understand how we got here because we don't know the truth about things. And when people, normal people, because you're not going to hear this truth coming from nobody that goes to university, that's getting paid by them, that was taught by them. This is going to come from your independent learners. But nobody wants to listen to it because it disrupts the fabric. And a lot of people like to go along just to get along. Then there's some of us that don't love none of that shit, so we out here speaking this truth, and nobody wants to hear it. But we don't understand why men are turning themselves into women, women are turning themselves into men, and little kids are being kidnapped and going missing and being sexualized at a young age because we don't understand who we following. I'm going to tell you who you following. You're following Esau and the Edomites. Per se, the Bible, their future ain't that good. Revelations is about the judgment of a nation of people. The nation of a people. But if you think that these are good, upstanding, outright people, when you see it all through history, the crusades, the massacre, the murder, the lies, the deceit, you still following them. And you know, I'm telling you, they come from the Romans, and you seen how Rome fell. Well, how Rome fell, bread and circus shows. You keep the people entertained and their belly full, they won't even notice that the world is crumbling around them. Now let's look at America. We're addicted to sports and entertainment. Most people are in poverty and debt, but we just keep on going along to get along and acting like everything's just fine. Rome ran up their debt. Their currency fell. America's 25 trillion and growing, and their currency is failing, but everybody's just going along to get along. But y'all don't understand and y'all don't notice where y'all at and how y'all got here. Because y'all just going along to get along. Because it's no fun in accepting the harsh reality. There's no fun in this. Everybody just want to be entertained, but do you think that you was really put on this earth just to be entertained? You just put on this earth to go watch sports, go to shows, be a foodie, destroy the world, pollute, kill animals for sport. That's all you was put here for. But that's what you'll believe if you believe in white Jesus and Ball Earth. Now you see, you understand what I'm saying on how they created a degenerate, fallen society. And everybody's following them, and they don't know the truth. They don't have an understanding. When you take God from being what it says the earth from being what it says in Genesis, he separated the waters from the waters, created the firmament, put the sun and the moon inside of the firmament, and the waters above, and he sat on top of it like a throne. And you put them in the middle of a galaxy on a rock that's spinning, that's darting through a universe. People start to denounce God. They start to denounce God. They start to denounce God. And when it's so simple, like I tell people all the time, if you think that you live on a spinning ball, It takes more faith than believing that you live on a flat earth, a flat plane. When you sit back and watch the sun and the moon rotate across the sky like the hour hand on your clock, that's how you tell time, people. Because the sun it's like the yin and yang sign. It's been in your face the whole time. But when they tell you opposite of what God said, it don't make sense to you. It don't make sense to you. They tell you that the moon lights up because the sun lights it up at nighttime, but when the sun is so big, the earth is bigger than the moon, and then the moon is on the other side the earth is in the middle and the sun's on the other side of the earth, but they have the whole face of the moon is lit up. Whole face of the earth of the moon is lit up, and you think that the moon is lit up because of the sun. No, the moon puts off its own light, like the Bible said it did. There was two separate lights. But if you are just going off what people tell you and you're not using your common sense and you're not listening to the person, the source that created the earth, that has been the book that has been valid for over 4,000 years, it'll never make sense to you. You'll believe anything that people tell you. People believe that they living on a ball. They got billions and billions of gallons of water, and as this ball is spinning, the water sticking in the ball, because the earth is moving and spinning at 1,000 miles per hour. You don't feel no bumps, no turbulence, no bouncing, but you believe that the earth is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour with all this water, all this land, and everything's just sticking to it because of gravity. Man, they have done a trick on the people of the world. It takes more faith to believe that than believe what God said. But if you notice the pattern, they have told you to do they told you everything the opposite of what God said. Everything opposite. God said you live on a flat earth. They said you live on a ball. God said the book said Jesus was a person of color, black, brown. They said he was white. And the list can go on. But this is how we got here. Because they got the world following and believing in a people that are unspiritual people. They don't have a connection with God. And when it comes to biblical, it was written that they would be the destruction of the earth. Their gift was a sword. What is white people's greatest weapon? The sword. And swords took different forms throughout time. Your missiles, your guns, your bullets, and the swords. Every description of Esau, and they following the plan that the Bible said. I think it's Obadiah spoke of the judgment of Edom. And this is how you had God. But it's time for people to start revealing God and telling the truth, and it's time for people to start listening to people that are out here speaking truth that you can go check and fact check. But people don't want to listen to them because you following Esau and the Edomites. Because the information ain't coming out of their books, out of their universities, and ain't being told by them. Why would they tell you the truth? Of course they going to propagandize you with space and all of this utter nonsense, this high-sounding nonsense, because they need you to believe they lies, so when shit hit the fan and God comes back for them, you're going to help save them. They need you to believe in white Jesus. Because if you believe in white Jesus, you don't believe in God, the creator, which as the soul claimed. And we got to judge a fruit by its tree. We got to judge a fruit by its tree. I mean, a tree by its fruit. My bad. They can't be the voice and authority of God with their history, their the declarative history of mass murder, genocide, and destruction. And then they got the Pope walking out the same church that created Ball Earth and white Jesus, telling you that, well, Jesus sent us an email and he said that pedophilia is okay now. Jesus sent us an email and he said it's okay for homosexuality. Jesus sent us an email and he said that we could change this. We could change the Sabbath from being Saturday to Sunday. Jesus sent us. They not getting a message from God. They getting a message from the devil. The devil had a people too, the serpent people. Look it up. Look up who the serpent people is. But we don't understand this because we've been taught a lie and they have hidden God from people. And a lot of people, when them last days come, since y'all love they Hollywood, they movies, and they lies, and they got y'all believing in aliens and all of this, and when God come back for that second coming, and like it said in Revelations, and he waged war on earth, y'all gonna go out, arm up, think y'all fighting aliens, when you actually gonna be at war.